all these people burn themselves out at the end. That's the thing. And you said, well, how can people believe it? Isn't everyone suspicious? I think that more people are now than ever, partially because the ability to have information through the internet, regardless of if that information is true. Subtle point on this. Even if you're a wild conspiracy theorist or whatever, it still leads to the breakdown of trust and suspicion, right? Maybe there's something useful to that, even if they're wrong. This is what I always say about the conspiracy theory people, is that even if they're maniacs and wrong about things, I think that there's always something useful about doubt. Now, I grant you that it can go too far and it can become absurd, and it can even be dangerous at times. But in the, the classic example of the televangelists, the preachers on television, throughout the 80s and 90s, it's happened over and over again. These gigantic people taking in millions of dollars, with huge congregations. And over again, what do you find in the end?
They're the worst of their congregation, doing all the things they preach against.
Over and over. How many times is the lesson need to be learned? I don't understand anymore.
Well, that's my fear, is that people, it's a mutual thing, right? Because the congregation gets something from the televangelist. There is this kind of symbiotic relationship there where we're hearing something we want to hear and you're getting what you want to get. My thing is, well, there's what brings you to that situation where you're so easily fed lies by a fraud. And that's my fear in the more general sense, not just, the religious sphere, but why are we so eager to lap up whatever the newest headline is, whatever the newest mandate is, or whatever it is that we're told is the story du jour that we're supposed to run with? I think that, I've never been threatened by conspiracy theorists because I'm a thinking person. And I know that this is actually such a contentious issue. I am supposed to believe that the fact that someone like Alex Jones exists is a dire threat to my life and civilization at all times. And I don't believe that, because I am a thinking person and I can take information and misinformation and look through it, examine it, and think for myself. So my problem here is people get so caught up with, plugging the spout through which the misinformation, the conspiracies come from. And this is the negative approach always to things, which is, let's censor it, let's ban it, let's silence it, let's mandate it. Well, how about we take the positive approach, which is make people more able to grapple with misinformation, give people better resources to be thinking people, to be independent thinkers. There's never any discussion of that, of like, hey, instead of, just like topping every time someone says something that's incorrect, why don't we have a population that can deal with this new age of information? I mean, instead of trying to live in the dark ages.
So I'll play devil's advocate against myself, which is to say, I've just spent the last half hour ranting about how people are very prone to joining mobs and are cruel and unthinking, and how people get fooled time and time again by joining mega churches and giving their money to criminals, and how all this. So one could say, against what I've said, well, the reason you have to do mandates and the reason you have to do shut down on conspiracy theorists is because people are too fucking stupid not to understand. That's an argument. I think that's more cynical than what I actually think, though, because I think the only way forward is to try to kind of bring the level of people up as best we can. And I'm not giving suggestions. I don't know how to reform the education process to make people critical thinkers. I don't know. But I have a feeling that, right or wrong, that's the route we're going to have to go, because in this new world of information, and it really is a new world of it's unstoppable. It's going to be unstoppable now. Even the technology to censor and stop. I mean, yeah, it can work to a degree, but I don't think that it's going to work.
No, and
entirely.
there's a collateral cost is what people don't realize. There's already, countless instances of people that absolutely should not have been censored by an algorithm that do get censored by it. And their appeals are not, by YouTube or whatever it is, they're not seen. So, I mean, that's the cost of that game of saying, well, the masses are too stupid to sort through information on their own, so we have to do it for them. Well, you better believe that the cost is there is information that would improve the world, improve people, and it will not get to them. That's how that goes. So my thing is that I'm not willing to pay that cost because some people are too stupid. Okay, I am so sorry for those people. I hope that they make it. I don't want them to suffer, but I don't think that the best route forward for a progressive society, for one that grows and improves and is innovative, is to structure that society around the stupidest people. So that's the argument, right? Is that there are people that are so foolish that they're going to drink bleach. That's what we hear. Well,
right.
I'm sorry. That's not the kind of people that I want to live by laws for them. Like, why should I live by those laws?
Well, and a lot of those stories, when you look into them, aren't.
Yeah, of course.
Real.
And listen, there's like 300 million something people in the country. If 100 people drink bleach today because they thought it would cure something, that's not even news.
So now to argue against the devil's advocate position that I just took, I would say what happens though is that institutions use the excuse that they're protecting people when they need to make mandates or when they need to censor something or control information a certain way. I actually don't believe for the most part they are doing it out of humanitarian reasons, though I do think that some of them do. I actually do think some of them do. But I actually think what they do is they use that as an excuse to collect power and to basically trade in political favors or whatever it is. That's mainly what I think the way that works.
I think it's so obvious. I think it's dangerously naive to think that it's not that. I mean, again, I think almost every other episode I repeat the quote from Plato that when a tyrant first appears, they are a protector. It's an ancient game. The trade of safety and security for freedom. That's the spectrum. So, I mean, when you inch toward one side, you inch away from the other. This is like, it's a bargain. And we make that bargain already. It's not like we're living in anarchy, total freedom where everything goes and there's no laws, there's nothing, no security. We don't live there. We've already traded freedom for security. But the question is, how far are we going to go? I think we're getting to a weird cultural position where the idea is that safety and security trumps all. And that is a terrifying idea to hold. And I think it is something that people who are too naive to even recognize the freedom that they have and to understand that that is a spectrum that you bargain with, that's the position that they would hold.